I realized that to be more confident, I didn't have to be the best. I didn't have to feel good at everything that I was doing. I just had to show up and trust myself and trust that things will work out. Hello everyone and welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Jillz and I help women step into their power, embrace their womanhood, and become their best self. So if that's something you want to do, you should subscribe and stick around. So in today's video, I want to do just like a little casual chit chat, and I wanted to talk about confidence and how I feel like I got my confidence back. Because I feel like when we're born and when we're really young, we actually naturally have a lot of confidence. But over time, that gets chipped away from different life experiences and going through school and everything like that. And by the time we're a teenager or a young adult, our confidence just isn't there anymore. So I wanted to share from a personal perspective, like the thoughts, the mindsets that really helped me. So these are all personal to me, keep that in mind, but I'm sure that these tips could help a lot of other people as well. So the first thing that helped me get my confidence back, and this might sound super silly, but I realized that to be confident, that didn't mean that I had to be super extroverted. And any of my fellow introverts out there might totally relate to this. You know, it's not like I never want to be around people and never speak up. It's just I'm naturally more introverted. And when we think in our head of like a confident person, we think of the people who are like louder and take up more of that space and more of that attention and, you know, get their voice heard. And you know, there's that saying, insecurity is loud and confidence is quiet. I think that confidence can be loud for some people. That's some people's personality. They're just very extroverted and love to be loud and all of that. And that just vibes with them. That's their energy. But other people aren't like that, and I'm not really like that. And I realized that to be confident, I didn't have to be that. That's not what made me confident. I'm more of the type of personality where my confidence tends to show up, or I like to think of it as my confidence tends to show up more as a little bit mysterious. You know, I'm like a mysterious woman who is just super content and happy with herself and doesn't need to be the loudest person in the room. I think sometimes we think, or we're conditioned to think, that being quiet is bad, or that this is a sign that you don't feel like you're good enough or you're not confident, but it doesn't have to be. And once I realized that I could disconnect those thoughts, that me being quiet could actually be also me being confident, it made me feel a lot more confident in who I actually was and the way that I wanted to show up. And that brings me to my next point. To be confident, you have to own who you are. You have to know who you are and be authentic with that. So if you are not someone like, you know, like me, who doesn't want to be like the loudest person in the room all the time, then you doing that is not gonna make you feel good. It's not gonna feel aligned. It's not gonna make you feel confident, because it's just not who you are, and you know that. Or if you're someone who's super extroverted and loves that kind of stuff, it's not gonna feel good to you if you try to go along with that like mysterious air of confidence, you know, that quieter confidence. You have to own who you are and know who you are. And this goes along with everything in life, not just if you're extroverted or introverted, but you need to know your skill sets. What are you good at? What are your natural strengths? What are you meant to do in this world? Where do you bring value? We don't all bring value in the exact same way. There's that saying, and I had to look it up. It's everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. And this is so important. You have to find your thing. You have to find what you're good at, and you have to follow that, even if that goes against what your parents want you to do or what is considered good and valuable in the world today. I think the way that you get confident is by doing the things that you're good at and focusing on that. For example, if you are an artist, that's naturally what you're really good at. I'm not. I'm terrible at art. I always have been, very bad at it. But if that is your natural talent and that is what you are just so good at, then you shouldn't spend your whole life behind a spreadsheet. That is doing you and the world a disservice. And you know what that's also gonna do? It's gonna make you feel so much less confident in yourself. You have to play to your strengths and bring value to the world and to your life in that way. And I have this thought that we can sometimes never really feel confident in who we are unless we embrace that, unless we build up the courage to do the things that we know that we should do. For example, I feel like I finally got confident once I built up the courage to start making YouTube videos. Not because I needed to like put myself out there in a certain way to feel confident, but because I knew deep down that I needed to be sharing information with the world, and that's what I'm supposed to be doing, and that's what I'm good at. And I felt like I wasn't doing that. And once I decided to have that courage and show up on YouTube and make videos, I started to get a lot more confidence in myself, even when like 10 people were watching. It wasn't about like how successful I was. That's not what confidence is. It was about showing up in the way that I knew I was supposed to, in a way that was aligned for me. And think about it right now. Is there anything that you're not doing or that you're holding back on because either you're afraid of what people are going to think about you, or you just feel like you're going to fail at it, or for whatever reason? If you feel like you're constantly holding back, then I feel like it's so hard to actually feel confident in yourself. You have to just show up and do what you know you're supposed to do. And if you don't know what you're supposed to do yet, that's fine. But get out there, try different things, explore, and you will figure it out over time. It will become clear to you. Next thing to become more confident is that I decided that at any time I could rewrite my story. I could decide to have different thoughts and be a different person. And what I mean by this is I kind of dug into my brain and I was like, why don't I actually feel confident? Why do I feel like I have to hold back? Why do I feel like I'm not good enough or not capable or not worthy or whatever it is? And when I was thinking about it, I realized that when I was younger, I was naturally very introverted and very shy. And so when I was in school, I was oftentimes pretty quiet. But there were other kids in my class who were just naturally much louder than I was, and just kind of like naturally got that attention more than I did, because that was just their personality. And I sometimes felt like I was left in the back, you know what I mean? And so over time, it gave me this impression that I wasn't as worthy, or I wasn't as capable or good enough. It doesn't have to be these traumatic events that cause you to have certain negative stories or limiting beliefs in your head. But once I realized that connection, I realized that I could break that. And that was kind of the identity that I had for myself when I was younger and growing up, that I just wasn't really good enough, or I wasn't pretty enough, or whatever it is. And so I rewrote those stories in my head, like that experience with school. It wasn't me not being worthy, not being good enough. It was just the experience that I had, and it didn't deem me a lesser person. And I decided to shift my identity into the person that I wanted to be. And you can do this again at any time, and this gives us so much power. But you do have to remember that you still need to shift your identity into a person that's actually aligned with you. You can't just see someone on Instagram and be like, oh wow, they're super cool. I'm gonna shift my identity to be like them. Maybe if that person really resonates with you and has the things that you really want deep down. But if they don't, and you just want that because they have a lot of Instagram followers, then that's not gonna work for you. It's not gonna make you feel good. You have to shift your identity into the person that is truly aligned with you and is free of those stories and limiting beliefs that are holding you back. Just go back and rewrite those stories that you feel like kind of damaged your confidence in the way that you viewed yourself, and rewrite them, because 99.9% of the time, they had nothing to do with you. The stories that we tell ourselves greatly impact the future that we have. They set us up for the future that we have. And so if you don't like your story, you can change it. My story went from someone who was not good enough and not capable of doing things on her own, someone who wasn't pretty enough, someone who just wasn't good enough, to someone who had value to bring. Someone who was capable, someone who was good enough and had strengths, and utilizing those strengths helped me to rewrite that story. Now, also, I realized that things like embarrassment is a choice. Feeling less than, feeling worse than, feeling inferior is a choice. I can go and take Instagram pictures in front of a bunch of random people because I'm not embarrassed by that, because I choose not to be embarrassed by that. So often this feeling of not being confident is because we feel like we can easily become embarrassed by things. But once you realize that embarrassment is actually really a choice, it is a choice within yourself, you don't have to worry about that so much. No one can ever make you feel something without your consent, and you have a lot more power over yourself than you might realize. Your life is not at the mercy of other people. But with that said, even though things like embarrassment is a choice, I think it's also important to get rid of people in your life who make you feel like you are not good enough. And by that, I mean people who tear you down and treat you poorly. If you constantly keep those people in your life, I mean, what are you telling yourself? That you deserve to be treated that way. Like if your friend is always being passive aggressive with you and talking behind your back, or your boyfriend is toxic and tearing you down and not treating you well, the less worth you will feel like you have. To get more confident, I feel like you have to raise your standards for how you're treated. If you're around certain people who always treat you like crap and you keep putting up with that over and over again, how is that going to make you better off? How is that going to make you more confident? How is that going to make you feel more worthy, more capable? It's not. Again, no one can make you feel embarrassed or inferior without your consent. But the longer and the more that you keep these people in your life, you're just telling yourself that you are not worthy of that. And all that's going to do is tank your confidence. The moment you decide to build up that courage to separate yourself from them, I promise you, the more confident you will feel. Okay, so this is kind of another weird way that helped me feel more confident. And I actually do this in many different aspects of life, but I kind of need to take a step back and explain. That's Piper back there. That is my dog, right? If someone were to tell me, oh, Piper is a cute cat, I would be like, what? She's a dog, right? And I know with 100% certainty that she is a dog. If someone told me that I have brown eyes, I would be like, no, you're wrong. I have blue eyes, because I just know with 100% certainty that my eyes are blue. Or if someone said that my name was Sarah and not Jillz, I would be like, no, my name is Jillz, right? I just have that feeling deep in my body. It's just this deep inner knowing. It's grounded, it's calm. But then when someone says or implies, oh, you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're not capable, we don't have that same grounded feeling. We all of a sudden start questioning it. Maybe you start to feel a little bit of anxiety in your stomach or a little bit of chaos in your mind. It doesn't feel the same as if someone told me my dress was blue, because it's not, it's pink. So I started taking that energy, that knowing that my dress is pink, to everything else in life that I wanted. That I am good enough, that I am capable, that I am pretty enough, all of those things. And I harnessed that energy of like that deep inner knowing to those things that I wanted in life. I thought about, and I really thought about how that felt in my body, that groundedness, that calmness, and I transferred that over to the other things that I was working about. For example, in this case, my confidence and my feeling good enough in who I was. No one could tell me that I wasn't good enough. No one could tell me that I wasn't valuable. No one could tell me that I wasn't worthy, because I knew just deep down that I was. There was no question. There was no thinking about it, because that's just how it is. Just like Piper is a dog, that's how it is for me. I am just good enough. I am just worthy. I am just valuable. I am just confident, because that's just who I am. That's just what it is. So think about how confident you would feel if somebody told you that your name was something else. You would know just with full certainty that they were wrong. So if someone tries to tell you or implies that, you're not good enough, or makes you think in that sort of way, you can use that same sort of thinking. I just know for a fact that they're wrong, because I know in my heart what is right. And along those same lines, everyone has times where we have negative thoughts that come into our head. But I realized that those negative thoughts don't have to be who you are. And you don't actually have to listen to those negative thoughts. They can be totally irrelevant. You can just let them pass. You don't have to acknowledge them. You can just let them be and let them go. Again, your negative thoughts don't have to be who you are. They can just be a random negative thought. And you don't have to put that much energy into dissecting all of them. You can just let them go. And there is a really big difference between the random negative thoughts that pop into your head and the action you choose to take and the way that you choose to feel. Those negative thoughts do not have to dictate your actions and or your feelings and your emotions. They don't have to change the way that you see yourself. They don't have to change the way that you show up in the world. They can just simply be, and you can just simply let them go. If you're trying something new and you have those negative thoughts that come in, well, what if this happens? Or what if this bad thing happens? Or what if I fail? You don't have to give them that much energy. You don't have to give them that much attention. You can think of those negative thoughts as things that are outside yourself and not who you are. Now, this next one was actually a really big revelation for me when it came to confidence specifically. And that was, I realized that confidence didn't mean that you had to be the best in the room. Confidence didn't mean that you had to be the most successful all the time and never make mistakes and never fail. I realized that at its core, what confidence meant was being able to feel comfortable with myself and trust myself. Trusting myself that even if I failed at that one thing, that I would be fine. Trusting myself that I knew the answers and that I didn't have to go ask the other people in my life what to do or advice all the time, that I could turn to myself, that I could trust myself. So often we think about confidence as like us being really good at something, right? Like, oh, I'm confident in playing piano. The way that you become confident in playing piano is by practicing over and over and over again. So you develop that skill really well, and that's how you become confident in that. But there's a difference between that confidence in a skill, like playing piano, versus having just that true inner deep confidence in who you are. There will always be new skills to learn. There will always be things that you can be better at. To have that deep inner confidence, it comes back to trusting yourself, and trusting yourself that even if things don't go as planned, even if you mess up, even if you make mistakes, that it'll be fine because you trust yourself. You know that you can manage. And just because you don't feel confident in a certain aspect of your life, it doesn't mean that you are not a confident person, that you can't be a confident person. Like, for example, when I started making YouTube videos, I didn't feel confident making YouTube videos. I felt like I was not very good at it, but I did it anyways. Because a confident person is okay being bad at something that they're starting. They're okay being a beginner at something new. A truly confident person can welcome new challenges into their life because they know at the end of the day that they are gonna be good. Whether they succeed or fail, it doesn't matter. I realized that to be more confident, I didn't have to be the best. I didn't have to feel good at everything that I was doing. I just had to show up and trust myself and trust that things will work out. And the minute that I decided to do that, I felt lighter, I felt more confident, I felt better. However, I realized that to start really trusting yourself, you have to start showing up for yourself. You have to start keeping the promises to yourself that you make. And you need to start creating like little successful winning streaks. You know, you making the bed every single morning. That is a win. You told yourself you were gonna make your bed every single morning and you did it. If you made a promise to yourself that you're gonna exercise 4 times a week and you don't do that because you're just lazy and sitting on the couch, what does that tell yourself? It tells yourself that you can't trust yourself. And the more that you feel like you can't trust yourself with these little things, how are you gonna feel like you can trust yourself with the bigger things? You have to start showing up for yourself. You have to start creating these little mini winning streaks over little things. They don't have to be these big grand things. It can be like making your bed, or getting dressed every morning, or exercising 3 or 4 times a week, or cooking at home, 4 or 5 days a week, whatever it is. But when you make promises to yourself, show up for them. And initially you might not think that showing up for yourself, making those little promises to yourself and showing up for yourself is really related to confidence, but I think that there's actually a huge correlation. And also don't keep ignoring your intuition either. Another way that you show up for yourself is that you listen to yourself and you honor and validate what that inner knowing is saying. Confidence doesn't mean that you have to be the best. Confidence doesn't mean that you have to be the most successful. It just means that you trust yourself, that you know yourself, and you trust yourself to be okay. You trust yourself to go try for new things, and even if you fail, it's okay. It's okay. If you want to be more confident, start building that self-trust. And so with that said, take care of yourself. The more that you focus and prioritize eating clean foods and exercising and, getting good sleep and having that good mindset and everything related to taking care of yourself, you will notice that your confidence naturally increases. Whenever your health improves, your confidence improves. And of course, when we are healthier, we tend to look a little bit better as well. Maybe we're more in shape, or our skin glows a little bit more, but whatever it is, it's not just about looking good. It's also just about how you feel. And when you feel better, and when you keep showing up for yourself in that kind of way, your confidence will increase. The minute I started taking care of myself and prioritizing my health, my thinking around confidence and my own value and my own worth started to change. And once I actually started feeling like really well and healthy, I felt so much better. I felt naturally so much more confident without actually doing anything else. So the last thing I did to feel more confident, and I know I've talked about this before, was that I started playing the part until it became real. If you're not confident yet, you can kind of play that character. You can pretend to be that confident version of yourself until it becomes real. I just decided one day that I was going to start showing up as her, being that highest version of myself. I was just going to start showing up as her, whether I felt like her her or not, that was irrelevant. I was gonna start showing up like her. And a lot of people say like, oh, this isn't real confidence. This isn't true inner confidence because you're faking it. And I would argue that they are right, at least for the beginning. For the beginning, it is a little bit of that faking it. It's playing pretend. However, here's the thing. There are two different aspects of yourself. There is your identity, and there is like the way that you show up in the world. And throughout most of your life, these two need to be aligned, or else it just feels off. It doesn't feel good. You can't sustain this sort of difference for that long. So when you start showing up as her, let's say that's up here and your identity is still down here, you can sustain this misalignment for a little bit of time, but eventually this is not gonna work. Eventually they have to get aligned. Eventually your identity has to start shifting to match the way that you're showing up in the world. That's just the way that it is. Eventually, when you're consistent with this and you keep showing up as that highest version of yourself, that confident version of yourself, the one who feels that they are capable and good enough and worthy, the more that your identity will shift to be in alignment with that, because that's just how it works. These two different aspects have to be aligned in your life. So what happens is either you start showing up as her and eventually over time your identity will start shifting to match that, or you'll start showing up as her, but then you kind of like will back off a little bit. You'll start showing up as her and then you'll back off a little bit. So you're kind of pulling yourself down to this old identity. But if you want to rewrite your story, if you want to reinvent yourself and kind of show up as that confident person and truly be that confident person, you have to continue to show up as that confident person, as your highest self. And eventually your identity will have to match that. So I do think that this approach can work really, really well. Now, I don't think that this is the only thing you should do to build your confidence. I don't think the only thing that you should do is just the fake it till you make it approach. I think that it's also important to kind of work on the other things like showing up for yourself, building that trust for yourself, you know, learning who you are, owning your strengths, all of that kind of stuff. But once you start putting all of these little pieces together, once I started putting all these little pieces together, that's when I realized that my confidence started to take on a whole nother level. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And even though these are all just little things that really helped me to feel more confident and get my confidence back, I hope that there's little things that you can take away with and kind of apply to your own life. Thank you so much for watching this video and staying till the very end. I really appreciate you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.